Iceland, Tonga, Ottomans, and the Pirate Republic, as well as a huge naval update and the launch of an early access workshop that you, a member of the community, can take part in to help to plan and test upcoming features before they go live. Hello there, I'm Ursa Ryan, and today I have a lot of information, a lot. Some would say lots of swag, because Civ 7 is receiving a bunch of updates in November 2025, and I've kindly been shown about them in advance. So let me tell you everything I know. So, get yourself comfortable. There's a lot of information in this video. Broadly speaking, there are three separate sections to this video today. We have the Tides of Power, which is the new upcoming expansion. That will include some new leaders, some new civilizations, some new wonders, some new natural wonders, and will be released, as has been the case previously, in two parts. Then we have the Naval update, which is patch 1.3.0. It's been called the Naval update because you guessed it, it has a lot of naval updates in it. And then finally, the Firaxis feature workshop. I think out of everything, we should start with the Tides of Power because, well, there is a lot of new content coming, and for the first time, this collection, at least for a limited period of time, is going to be free for everyone to use regardless of the platform that you play on until the end of the year. So when it launches in early November and late November, right through to the end of December, anybody will be able to play with this content. After that point, I imagine you'll probably have to pay for it, although I'm sure they'll confirm that. So part 1 launches in early November. Let me show you some of it. The first leader to be released will be Edward Teach, aka Blackbeard. Yep, Blackbeard was a real historical individual, and he will be a leader in Civilization VII. Firstly, he looks amazing. Second, he sounds amazing. This is the video.
Fix me deadlights, matey. We aim for plunder and profit, and give naught to king nor god.
I mean, we've had a lot of leaders in Civilization VII using the new art style. They've really got it nailed with this leader. I think the style really suits. There's a couple of things I just wanted to point out. Firstly, Edward Teach obviously was a real individual, and as Blackbeard, he was a famed privateer / pirate that a lot of pirate lore is very much influenced and based on. But he was an interesting individual. He actually, yes, engaged in large amounts of piracy and pillaging and blackmail and ransom, but rather famously, he wasn't really violent. I'm trying to taper this down ever so slightly because, of course, if you are a pirate, you engage in violence in some way. But he's rather famous for never really having executed or killed anybody, especially in his capture or as a prisoner of his. When he engaged in piracy, his approach was one of intimidation, of image. Hence why, if we just have a look at him, do you see his smoking beard? He rather famously, or at least certain accounts of him, used to tie fuses, slow burning matches, these are the things that are used to fire cannons and the like, to his beard when he engaged in diplomacy and when he needed to actually fight, in order to bring up the image of someone mean and angry that you didn't necessarily want to fight. He famously had very tall boots and wore black clothing, and is a classic example of frighten them, they'll give up, and then you don't actually have to fight. Mechanically, I don't know what his abilities are going to be, but it's going to be interesting. Is he going to be a pillage-based leader? Is he going to be a naval-based leader? Probably, I would say. We've already seen various attempts at this with Napoleon, for instance, would be a good example. I think, personally, he's going to be somebody that uses naval units in an aggressive way. I would be very surprised if he didn't, but I wouldn't be surprised if the intimidation factor was brought into the game a little bit more than an actual direct combat strength. We'll see how right or wrong I am, but I think he's a very cool looking leader. In the second clip, just quickly before we go in, we can see some of his units whilst leading the Pirate Republic. One of the major things I can see from this image is, yep, the Pirate Republic has the skull and crossbones above their units, which I just think is rather lovely. Here he is meeting player-led Genghis Khan.
Ye to the Admiral of the Black, the scourge of the seven seas, Edward Teach, Blackbeard in the flesh.
So the audio is slightly delayed on that clip. I think it's just the file I was given. Note the skull and crossbones on the flag behind him. I think he's very cool. If you come across him, you're gonna go, oh no, this is really bad. I'm really interested to see how he's gonna play in multiplayer as well. But I really, really like the black and red. Gonna be interesting to see how easy it is to identify his units and cities compared to independent powers. I remember back on Civilization V and then Civilization VI, there were pirate mods that used the black and white, and they were always incredibly confusing to look at when you looked at, for instance, city-states and other bits and pieces. I'm sure that won't be a problem, but it'll be interesting to see what the color scheme looks like. Another clip here of a naval battle between what I believe is the Normans and the Pirate Republic. A couple of things to look out for here. We have a treasure convoy or a treasure ship being hidden behind the pirate vessels they are attacking. And I think, unless I'm really getting this wrong, I might be getting this wrong, but one of the Pirate Republic boats has the crow's nest at the top of it with somebody firing either an archer or a rifle of some kind. I am tempted to believe that that is a unique unit for the Pirate Republic. Again, we will be not having to wait long, I'm sure, to confirm whether I am right or wrong on this. But as you can see, the battle being undertaken is a fearsome one. There we go, just a nice little naval battle for you there. I think it looks really pretty. Every time I see this game, you just think, oh, it's such a step up from previous editions. Now, the Pirate Republic themselves are an exploration age civ. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of synergy with Blackbeard. And this is their wonder, the Havana Harbor. Let's just see it being built quickly.
In the immediate nearness of the gold, all else had been forgotten.
I love the boat. That's really cool. And then it gets put into the sea as it's finished. Ta-da! And the shining and the cannons. Oh, again, I'm not entirely sure about what this wonder is going to be doing, but there's a few things that we can take away from this screenshot. Firstly, this is a really, really good representation of the style of the Pirate Republic buildings. They are a European-esque colonial architecture style, which is interesting. It looks like in this particular start, there is either a tropical bias or a lot of settling was done in tropical terrain, given how much rainforest and lush rainforest mountains are around in the shot. The wonder itself, obviously there is a lot of gold. I reckon gold is going to be used in this one. What that's going to be, I think it's either going to be to do with pillaging yield or a production of gold when doing something else. Like for instance, if you raise a tile, you get additional gold. If you take a city, if you build a boat, obviously a boat is being built in the harbor there. We shall see. So in this roving shot of the lands, you can see in the background the two different types of naval unit, the light unit and the heavy unit. We'll talk about that in a little bit, as well as a little bit of the architecture going on here. I very, very much expect the Pirate Republic to be a archipelago or island thriving civilization. So there's another naval powerhouse here and another nice little shot for you. Very pretty looking. Yeah, this looks quite colonial, doesn't it? Let's pause it there just so we can have a quick inspection. Yeah, you can see, I think this is the light naval unit in the background, and this one in the foreground is the same, because it doesn't have the crow's nest like this one in the back. I think this is going to be the unique heavy unit. That would be my guess anyway. But that isn't all. There is no new leader for this civ, but there is a second civ being released at the beginning of this update, and that is Tonga. Now, I believe looking at the architecture of Tonga, this is going to be an antiquity age civilization, so another naval option for the beginning of the game. We have a look, we can see, I think this is going to be a unique naval unit civ, just looking at that, and I believe if we pause this here, that as I look at it, I can't necessarily see a unique improvement. I think this is going to be a unique building civilization. I'm just trying to spot. It's always very, very difficult to spot. Let me know in the comments. Can you see the thing here? There's something being repeated in this island. There's one back over there. There's one over here. There's one. Yeah, so maybe it's that building. Do you see with the little semicircle of red? Although that could be something else. I'm not entirely sure. Another nice little flyover for you here to have a look at. Obviously, another naval civilization tied with patch 1.3.0 when this first piece of DLC comes out. So everything is going to be a little bit naval based, but all the same, really good to have more naval options in the game. Finally, a little bit of combat with the Tonga unique boat and what appears to be a Phoenician unit. I'm just trying to see the eye there. I think, is that the Phoenician thing? Might be. Carthage. I keep saying Phoenician. Of course it is Carthage. Not the only naval superpower in the game anymore. So this is only one half of the DLC. When the second half comes out towards the end of November, we have Sayyida, who, if you don't know anything about her, was a Moroccan governor slash privateer pirate leader famed in the Islamic world for giving Iberia a very, very hard time. So again, another pirate privateer based leader. Will be interesting to see whether or not her abilities are similar or slight tweaks to Blackbeard's abilities. I think she might be a little bit more combat focused, but a very cool leader choice. I think she could synergize well, obviously with the Pirate Republic, but with other naval civs like Hawaii, Majapahit, Tonga, Carthage. In fact, actually, Carthage is probably going to be a geographic dead-on cert, isn't it? So yeah. And then whilst I have no information on the specifics of them, the two civs released it towards the end of that month are going to be Iceland and the Ottomans. Iceland, known for being a small rock in the middle of the sea, tundra base. Very interested to see what sort of abilities they have. And the Ottomans, they were rumored to be coming to the game. I saw this pop up on Reddit a few times over the last month or so. Yep, the Ottomans are here. If they don't have a massive bombard of some kind, if they don't dismantle the Byzantine Empire, I don't know what's going on. Obviously, we saw a version of them in Civilization VI with Janissaries and the Great Turkish Bombard. I could imagine we're going to have something very similar. We could have a naval slant on the Ottomans as well. Barbary Corsairs was the unique unit in Civilization VI, and they were incredible pillaging units at that. So maybe we'll see something related to that with a release of this. I can also reveal that there are 4 new wonders coming to the game with this piece of DLC, all being released in the first half. The Great Lighthouse, Nan Madol, which previously was a city-state, so that's cool that it's now a wonder. Great Lighthouse, a returning classic. And then 2 natural wonders. The Great Blue Hole. I think Sucratact's mod for Civ 6 made this a well-loved wonder within the modding community. And I'm going to say this entirely wrong. The Mapua Vea blowholes, which I've had a Google. They look very, very cool. So that is the Tides of Power. I've mentioned patch 1.3.0 a few times. Let's speak about that. It's the naval update, and this is going to tie very much into that piece of DLC. This is obviously a patch that changes the game. It is free to everyone. So looking through the list of changes with this patch, there will be another pass over the individual civs in the game. Strategic balance changes are going to be happening. So this will extend probably beyond and above the naval changes, but I expect everything in this patch to be very naval focused. There is a new building and unit, which I both believe apply to the Age of Exploration, where a lot of these changes are tweaking. Exploration is really having a bit of a spotlight shone on it. Although maybe it isn't. Actually, maybe this might be an antiquity. There is a new building called the Harbour. This is a new water-based warehouse building that provides production and acts as a spawning point for producing naval units. So be very careful where you place it. Don't put your boats inside a lake like I always do. Then we have a new unit called the Privateer. Now, I think we saw that in the videos previously. The Privateer is a new light naval unit that is somewhere between the Cog and the Carrack in strength, so halfway between, and it is unlocked with the Heraldry tech, which is one of the second band of techs in Exploration. It has high speed, high utility, and it can raid trade routes and attack other military units without any check on the diplomatic status of you and your target. So yeah, they are privateer units. You can attack people that you are otherwise friends with. Now, the specifics of this sort of combat, I'm really intrigued. This is going to encourage a little bit more interaction with treasure convoys and treasure fleets, because obviously this is one of the core components of the Age of Exploration. The game is now trying to encourage you to steal other people's, and it seems like even if you're peace locked, you can send your privateers out and steal the treasure anyway. We have 3 new resources coming to the game: crabs, turtles, and cowrie. What is a cowrie? Cowrie is a common name for a group of small to large sea snails there you go, there's snails. I didn't know that. There is also a new land-based strategic resource called pitch appearing in the Exploration Age. Pitch obviously is a resource used very much in the construction and maintenance of boats. So I imagine those are going to be separated out a little bit as a separate combat bonus, where I think NITA previously would have applied, or there's going to be a little separation between light and heavy naval units. The resource spawning rules have been updated to guarantee a minimum amount of coastal resources. So obviously the game is now focusing on spawning more of these coastal resources into the game to get more of that play in the sea. There is a new type of terrain in the sea, specifically in the deep ocean, called the atoll, which is a small group of low-lying islands or reefs. They create strategic choke points and stop enemy or your own unit movement like rough terrain in the sea. So you'll be able to use them to kind of help you flank and control enemy naval units. There is a new lake terrain called the Lotus, which provides food and gold. Very pretty. I like the fact that lakes are getting a little bit of attention. Other terrain and reefs are all receiving buffed yields. You're going to see a lot of balancing with ocean terrain and coastal terrain, I expect. And here's an interesting one. Ocean tiles are now workable in the modern age, with Hawaii being able to work them in exploration. So they will now have yields and will be workable a little bit how mountains are workable in the modern age, and then Inca can work them a little bit earlier as well. That's the sort of distinction they're bringing in with ocean. So those little island placements are now going to be more useful than they have been previously. Naval combat itself has had a big overhaul, and the main thing is that there is now a distinct class difference between the 2 types of naval unit, the light naval unit and the heavy naval unit, and that distinction also carries through to exploration now. Just like before, heavy naval units are slow, powerful, and very good at range. So a little bit like the boats we've seen before. Light units are now melee focused with increased movement, vision, and flanking attacks. So they have a dual role between exploration ships, where they are a lot more nimble and can see a lot more, but also with the flanking and the increased melee strength, they're going to be ship killers. So you're going to very much want to have 2 layers of ship now. You've got the back line with your heavy ranged units that do the damage from a distance, and then your front line of the light units, which basically act as a screen and stop anybody from getting to your heavy units, which are now much more susceptible to combat damage. There will be a developer article explaining all of these naval changes with a particular emphasis on naval combat, released on October 29th, so we'll get more information then. Now, I think a lot of people were looking at exploration as needing a little bit of a tweak, specifically to do with treasure resources and the economic legacy path. Does this update change that? We will find out, and we will see if there are any more changes to the pacing of exploration. But I think the introduction of more of a distinct difference between heavy and light naval units is one that I really, really get behind. Light naval units so far in the game have had no use whatsoever. You don't build them. You build battleships in the modern age. There is no point building destroyers. I'm sorry, they're just not worth it. So hopefully we're going to see a use for both types of unit now. And it looks like with the increased map generation, resources, and terrain types, there will be a lot more interest with exploring and interacting with the deep ocean and small little island settlements, which is good because now we have Tonga and the Pirate Republic. Both of those, of course, steeped very heavily in Navy. So the final thing I'm going to cover is the Firaxis feature workshop, which is actually pretty exciting. Let me explain why. Civ 7 is and will be receiving major changes, big updates, balance patches, and this is going to act as a way of the community getting involved in a limited way with pre-testing those changes as they're in development before they are launched. What are some of those changes? Well, according to Firaxis, they are planning dramatic changes to the legacy paths and victory paths in Civilization VII. We want to open up the game and provide many new paths your empire can follow while achieving greatness and competing for victory. So I think we're going to see a bit more variation. Here's an interesting one as well. Their words, they want to create ways to play as one civ continually through all ages. So that's a big change. That's a very big change. I have no more detail on it. There is just one line in a Word document, but playing as one civ continually through all ages. It's been a very, very vocal group of people looking for that in Civilization VII. It may not be as far off as you think. The Firaxis feature workshop is going to invite a small number of community members that you can apply for. I believe they're going to give details as to how to do that via their Discord on November 3rd. But you'll be able to test in development features and provide feedback. So you'll be able to test all of these things before they go live. Now, I think content creators, like luckily myself, I'm going to be part of this, but it doesn't just get limited to people who play the game on YouTube. No, you as members of the audience, just the regular players of the game, will be able to join this if you apply. This is going to serve as the crux of the the biggest change coming up over the next couple of months. After the Naval update, the patches will get a little bit smaller and more tweaky as they go back and change bigger patches according to them, which is interesting. We still haven't had a patch on religion. I'm looking forward to seeing religion getting fleshed out because at the moment it is still rather hollow. But iterations on changes are always a good thing, and it seems like people are going to be able to test those changes as they are made. Now, as is the case with every load of updates, there of course are going to be more and more pieces of information put out. I'm sure Firaxis themselves are going to be putting spotlights on leaders and civilizations and dropping patch notes and dropping whole articles. So keep an eye out for more information. I just wanted to say thank you very much, Firaxis, for providing me access to information and assets early so I can get my teeth into them and pre-film this video before the patch goes live, because I'm in the UK. When patches go live, it means that normally at 7 or 8 in the evening, I have to start work, and I have a child now, and it's very, very late to do these patch videos, so I appreciate it. Thank you very much. It's very kind of you. But let me know in the comments, what out of everything I've spoken about are you most interested in, most excited in, most apprehensive of? Is there anything you want to see being looked at? And do you think you're going to apply to the Firaxis feature workshop? I'm intrigued to see how it applies and how it works out. Until next update video, I've been Ursa. Goodbye. I'll see you very soon. And finally, a very special shout out goes to Glorious Petra, Clibben Thurdas, Poppy Dude, The Nickerman, Mushkin Mandeltort, Matthew Wilkinson, Paul Coffey, Toon General, Capo Yobby Virani, The Uncivil Engineer, Radiatore, Debo91, Dan Jamo, Slither Alley, Scott Stratton, Skeptical Bear, Cinnamon Beard, Private Selection, Genoa Salami, Callum Billy, Garrett Gowan, El Truant, Creston, RB Hedged, Burial, I'm Daft, Gooberman, Dr. Bobby, Mixomatosis, NTG Golfman, Indigenous 68, Teddy's Ursa, Barnaby Rex, Charlie Bears, Nate the Great, Alex Frost, Mean Penguin, Interplanet Janet, Frankincense Battlezord, Geography Teacher, Juvara, Morax, Sinikush, Echo Bear, Legally Trash, Sorted Dutch, Rad Bickley, Shadow of Gaia, Bob Tway, Abstract Fun, JB Genius, Arctic Fox, Bookaluk79. Thank you everyone for your support. Goodbye.